Hello YouTube, this is Soren, and today's video is going to be talking about 9/11 lies debunked by 9/11 truthers themselves. The first video in this series is going to be seismic data showing that massive spikes happened before the collapses of World Trade Center 1 and 2, indicating explosions in the basements that caused their collapses. The source of this debunking is going to be 911research.wt7.net, which is definitely an insider website. However, once we look at the actual seismic data, it becomes clear that no such spikes actually exist. Now we indicate here which is the seismic data from the collapse of World Trade Center 1, showing the arrival of the P wave, the arrival of the second wave, of this S wave, and the energy released, and you can see clearly there is no such spike prior to the collapse. It also shows that things were moving and shaking around for a good 20 seconds after the beginning of the initial collapse. So it's clear that no such spike exists, and anyone who claims so is simply lying. The collapse of World Trade Center 2 shows very similar seismic data, where there is an initial P wave, which is significantly smaller than the S wave, we'll get to that later, and there was shaking and moving going on for a good 20 seconds while things were landing and twisting and doing everything else things do in collapses. This would also debunk the free fall speed from the seismic data, which shows that stuff was moving around for a lot longer than 10 seconds. Now on these previous graphs you should note the difference between the P wave and the S wave energy levels. The P wave, or the primary wave, is significantly less than the energy in the S waves. Generally, explosions that show up on seismic graphs will create nearly identical or roughly equivalent energy levels in P wave and S waves. Since this did not happen on 9/11, this indicates that no explosives were used at all. Now the data for World Trade Center 7 comes out a little differently. Again, there is almost no P wave activity, and the S waves continue for nearly 40 seconds. This would also debunk the 6.6 seconds you commonly hear from the 9/11 insiders, because the World Trade Center actually fell in about 17 seconds, and obviously there was much more shaking going on for a significantly longer time. And there were probably structural failures going on prior to even that. So what does this really mean? It means that even the 9/11 insiders can't agree what actually happened that day. And without a cohesive, clear hypothesis, there's no chance of the 9/11 inside movement getting anywhere, because the evidence simply isn't there to create a clear, concise hypothesis. So if you believe the lie that there were seismic spikes prior to the collapses of World Trade Center 1 and 2, maybe you should talk to your fellow insiders who say that is completely wrong.